Are we all ready? Okay. Please, quickly, put it here, bring it here. Thank you. We will now begin our press briefing, where we have the honor of having His Excellency Ambassador Bankole Adeoye, who is the Commissioner responsible for Political Affairs, Peace and Security. And today he's going to be addressing us on a number of issues. The first one is he will give us updates on the continental peace and security situation. He will provide information on unconstitutional changes of government and political transition in Africa. And the third one is he will talk about institutional landmarks in the Political Affairs, Peace and Security Department since 2021. I'm sure you will be aware that before that, there were two departments, one for political affairs and one for peace and security, but now we have a harmonized department. Commissioner will be talking to that issue. So what we will do, as usual, is that we will start with a briefing from the Commissioner, and then we will then go into a question and answer section. Some of you have asked me about the delay and would like to apologize for that, but there was an item that the Commissioner was presenting to the heads of state, and there isn't any possibility for him to have stood up in the middle of that discussion. So we thank you for your understanding around that. For now, let me hand over to His Excellency, Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, for the briefing. Commissioner, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Let me apologize for the delay given the debate in the Assembly of Heads of State and Government. First, the situation of peace and security, political governance on the African continent is worrisome. It's concerning, given the threats that continue to spread exponentially and the need to address these threats, be they terrorism, violent extremism, radicalization, transnational organized crime, rebellion, insurrection, and current rising of tension in many of our regions. It is important to also emphasize that all African leaders have continuously, consistently expressed concern at the trend of unconstitutional changes of government on the African continent. As you may be aware, 6 countries have been suspended from the African Union for undemocratic path to power. Therefore, the Assembly consistently expressed zero tolerance for unconstitutional changes of government. At the same time, the Assembly expressed the need to support the political transition agenda of these countries so that they can restore constitutionalism, the rule of law, and respect for basic human rights and fundamental freedoms. It is also important to emphasize the number of challenges being addressed by the Department of Political Affairs, Peace and Security in terms of promoting Agenda 2063, giving the aspirations for a peaceful and secure Africa. An Africa that is democratic, that respects human rights, that promotes constitutionalism, as well as the rule of law. Given this instead, the department reported to the heads of state 13 elections observed in 2023, 15 elections to be observed in 2024. Given this trend, you must still admit that Africa is on the path of genuine democracy. Africa continues to abide by its commitments in the African Charter on Democracy, Elections, and Governance. In this regard, we express the work we have been promoting with a number of stakeholders. The network of think tanks for peace, the institutional framework in the inter-regional knowledge exchange on conflict prevention and early warning, with the regional economic communities and regional mechanisms. The need to operationalize the African Standby Force, the priorities being accorded to the implementation of the Women and Youth Peace and Security Agenda, what we work around promoting mediation, dialogue, and reconciliation. We commended the work of all our champions working in the domain, particularly peace and reconciliation, by the President of Angola, as well as the great work being done by the President of Egypt in the post-conflict reconstruction and development domain. So these issues are necessary for us. We have to continue to work to promote peace and stability in the Horn of Africa, in the Great Lakes region, in the Lake Chad Basin, in Libya, in the Sahel, in Mozambique. And these issues are those that the Assembly have been seized with. It is important to emphasize that democracy, good governance remain very critical for Africa to achieve stable peace, stability, peace, security, as well as sustainable development. It is also necessary to see that we must continue to fight for democracy while condemning the various challenges related to unconstitutional changes of government. Let me assure you that I would rather take some questions, given that most of you understand the landscape and the work that we continue to do with all stakeholders in promoting the implementation of the African governance architecture and its sister plan, the African Peace and Security Architecture. These two plans continue to inform our specific interventions and efforts, endeavors to promote under the umbrella of the African Union Peace and Security Council, working with the panel of the wise, operationalization of the African Union Peace Fund, the various actors that work with us in ensuring that peace remains critical to the future of our continent. So let me thank you again, and I will ask Madam Wayne to facilitate 3, 4, 5 questions that I may respond to directly. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I already see hands going up on one side of the room. I don't see any on the left-hand side, so let me attend to those. First, there's a gentleman right in front, and there is a lady at the back, and there is another gentleman. Maybe let's take 2 people at a time.
Okay, thank you, Your Excellence. My name is Ahmed Al-Ashqar. I'm head of the news department in the Arab States Broadcasting Union. You talk about many challenges facing the African continent in the area of peace and security. What about the energy and the food and especially the education that will did we receive any support, financement to have a new development in this side?
Could you just come again?
Yes, I didn't.
Could you just come again with your sentence?
Okay.
With your question?
For the challengers that you talk about the peace and the security. What about the energy and the food and especially the education? We talk in the summit, all the summit talk about the education. Will you receive a financement for this project in the future inside all the continent?
Yeah, let me take it. No, thank you very much for the question. The Commission is operating a nexus approach that promotes the interlinkages between peace, security, governance, and sustainable development. And your question relates to what would be the essence of the peace without food security, without good education. And that is why 2 days ago, we collaborated with the World Bank, with stakeholders, to organize a session dedicated to the right to education. It's a fundamental, basic human right that we must promote, not only because of the theme of the year for 2024, but because the right to education, quality, lifelong, inclusive education for all, will benefit peace. As you're also aware, we are promoting, as part of our post-conflict and reconstruction revised policy, the peace education as a topmost priority. So education has two angles. Education for your lifelong learning purposes, and education that is about peace. Because peace is about tolerance. Peace is about promoting dialogue. Peace is about reconciliation. So these factors will certainly help in the year of 2024 and beyond. And our department, yes, the AU has a full-fledged department on education, science, technology, and innovation. But we work together with the commissioner in charge of that portfolio to promote peace education, to ensure that those who go through the education learning systems also are national, regional, continental, and global citizens for good. I really want to appreciate your question, and I want to assure you that this year we are promoting two basic rights: the right to education and the right to development, because we have to differentiate, even though they are interrelated, that on our continent there is greater awareness on political and civil rights, right to free speech, right to assembly, right to vote. However, how about the right to development? How about the right to education? So this year, we will be reinforcing our delivery as a department in promoting right to education that is lifelong, that is inclusive, and that is of quality in scope and delivery. I thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. At the back.
Ilham from Al Jazeera. I wanted to ask regarding conflict in Sudan. What is the peace and security contributing to bringing the two parties for dialogue? And what is the latest update? And we have been following up that there are several meetings on this, but what other measures can the peace and security of AU take on this matter? My second question is recently there has been an explosion in Congo, and the leader have accused Rwanda of this doing. Is there any statement from the African Union?
No, thank you so much. On Sudan, Sudan remains a topmost priority in 2024 for the resolution of the conflict that is now in its 10th month. As you are aware, the conflict broke out on the 15th of April 2023, And since then, the Peace and Security Council, the chairperson of the commission, all our actors have been working to ensure that with IGAD, with the League of Arab States, with the United Nations, to find lasting solution. On the 27th of May 2023, the Peace and Security Council adopted a roadmap for the resolution of the conflict in Sudan. And that roadmap speaks to fundamentally, number one, immediate, urgent, unconditional, comprehensive ceasefire. And this is why we call on the Sudan Armed Forces, the Rapid Support Forces, to both stop the fighting for the sake of the people of Sudan and come to the dialogue that will eventually lead to a ceasefire, a humanitarian relief system, as well as ensuring that Sudan restores its constitutional process for democracy and for stability. It is important to emphasize that for us in the African Union, we are fully aligned with the work of IGAD, as well as the League of Arab States and the United Nations, to find lasting solution to the crisis. We have also in the roadmap, which is also aligned with that of IGAD, that roadmap speaks to a number of elements: the ceasefire, the regional cooperation, and the emphasis on humanitarian relief, as well as political dialogue. And in the Assembly is expected to endorse the appointment of a high-level panel of eminent Africans led by Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers, who is also the African Union High Representative to silence the guns. So we have a team of prominent Africans: Dr. Chambers, Madame Speciosa, former Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, and Ambassador Medera, who was head of the African Union mission in Somalia. So we have people from the region who know the region, who know Sudan, who can contribute to the discourse. And I can assure you that that panel is now ready to roll out its activities from this summit, ensuring that all stakeholders, women, youth, civil society, labor unions, academia, professional bodies in Sudan, contribute to the political dialogue. And that political dialogue is anchored here in the African Union with IGAD. And we hope we will soon, in the course of the year, mobilize to bring all stakeholders to the table to hear their voice, to stop the war, unjustified war in Sudan. For your second question, permit me to parry for now, because the Assembly is seized with the matter. I want to assure you that all the conflict situations, all disputes between member states are being handled by various champions, various processes that I would believe will help in finding amicable solutions to the various problems. I thank you.
Yes, the gentleman
Okay.
at the back, and then we'll come to you as the fourth.
All right. Thank you, Excellency. And as you know, military coups in some African countries are still a threat for Africa's move toward this democracy. And you have seen that AU has been saying some countries are suspended from AU. And do you think that suspending these countries from AU could stop the trade of coup in still most African countries? And don't you think of other strong action against these countries so that other will learn from this, and that could be a lesson for the rest of African countries?
Okay. My brother, the African Union is a rules-based organization. In the Lomé Declaration, in the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, in the protocol establishing the Peace and Security Council of the African Union, in the African Union supreme ground norm, which is the Constitutive Act, if you go the military way to a political power, suspension is the #1 sanction. So, given the rules that we observe and the principles, shared values, time-tested over since the establishment of the African Union, suspension is the #1 sanction for unconstitutional changes of government. So therefore, the Peace and Security Council on 6 occasions suspended Sudan, Gabon, Niger, Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso, because they have flouted the values and the core principles of democracy in the African Union. The African Union is doing nothing out of its books. It is necessary to realize that, yes, the perpetrators of military coups may cite various reasons. For us in the African Union, you flout the values in the 4 normative frameworks that I mentioned. Sanctions will be placed in terms of suspension from the African Union. The assembly is an assembly of democratically elected African leaders, not military leaders. The days of the OAU where we had military rulers are over. These are now the days of democracy, of respect for basic human rights, respect for constitutional order, and that is why we will be working with many actors, including the UNDP, in the launch of what we call the Africa Facility to support inclusive transitions in Africa. So this facility promotes the engagement on how many of the suspended member states can have seamless, smooth, effective, and inclusive political transitions. So we are working with them in terms of their political agenda, their political transition agenda, so that they can come back to the African Union on the condition that they respect constitutional order and hold free, fair, credible, and transparent elections. I thank you.
Thank you very much. We had 4 questions coming from this side, and Commissioner had said he would take 5. So you were the 4th. So let me see from this side. Okay, there is a gentleman there in front with the cap. Just hold on. Let the 4th person ask their question, and then you'll be the 5th. Thank you.
Okay. Osman from Amara Media Corporation. Your Excellency, my question is that gun silence is one of African Union agenda, and some African countries is still facing conflicts. What strategy do you propose to strengthen the African Union peacekeeping mission and peace-building effort in conflict-affected regions?
No, thank you for that question. Peace building, sustaining peace remain the watchwords of our new post-conflict reconstruction and development policy. The strategy is to ensure that we build inclusive mediation and dialogue processes. We include stakeholders that are usually marginalized, women and youth, in conflict resolution. To build also a base like the Africa Platform for Children Affected by Armed Conflict, to ensure that in conflict situations, the interest of the child, the interest of the youth, the interest of women, the interest of the girl child, they are all taken on board. It is also necessary that some of the conflicts are of different nature, dynamic in nature, and you have to address them with different toolkits that we have in our toolkit. So, for example, in the Sahel, where terrorism is rife, we are promoting a policy of kinetic response and at the same time, whole of society approach. The whole of society approach means that you address the root causes. What are the grievances of the people, of the youth that have taken to arms, that have become radicalized, that are kidnapping, that are extorting, that are promoting an ideology of hate in a system where already the structures of state may be weak. So you have so many factors, and where there's no one size fits all, but I can tell you for sure that in our toolkit, we have the Peace and Security Council as that pivotal decision-making standing organ of the Union. Then we have the stakeholders, the panel of the wise, men and women that have been in political office, that have the experience with mediation, with reconciliation, with dialogue. We also utilize the role of we also utilize the mechanisms of deepening democracy, where we are promoting the participation of youth, women, encouraging that at national level and regional level. But I must say clearly that our goal is to silence the guns by 2030. But the silencing of the guns is not strictly a military or defense option. It has the components of addressing climate-induced violence. It must address the issues of building the capacity of the state to respond. It must also ensure that we bring youth, women, all together to participate better in the political processes. Thank you so much. I think I can take one
Thank you.
one.
Sorry?
I can take one final one.
Yes, yes. We have the final one coming from there.
Okay, thank you. Just one question only.
Please identify yourself.
Okay, my name is Galmo Dawit for VOA. My question is about the political saga between Somalia and Ethiopia following the MOU signed between Ethiopia and the de facto state Somaliland. So the president of Somalia, Hassan Sheikh Mohammed, has been here in Addis, and he has asked the African Union to take action regarding this agreement between Somaliland and Ethiopia. So Ethiopia is one of the key countries who play a key role in AMISOM. So what is the stand of, or what is the decision of African Union regarding the question of the president? And did AU, Peace and Security Council, discuss about this topic during this time? Thank you.
Let me reiterate the position of the African Union Peace and Security Council. First, the need for all member states to continue on the path of dialogue to settle their disputes or differences. The Assembly is still in session, and it is only once the outcome is clear later today that I can speak as to the outcome. But the Peace and Security Council has expressed concern about this matter, and it is necessary for us as the African Union to continue to work with the two esteemed member states towards finding amicable resolution of the dispute. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. That was His Excellency Ambassador Bankole Adeoye. Ambassador, I think I will just have the last word with them, but I think you can return to the Assembly. Thank you so much. So colleagues, I am aware that some of you still had questions that you wanted to put forward. So we have the communication team from the Political Affairs and Peace and Security Department, and that's Pascal. So those of you who still have issues that they would like attended to, please just see Pascal, and then he will try and find a mechanism by which you can receive your responses. But otherwise, thank you very much for your attendance, and thank you to our interpreters for allowing us to communicate with each other. Thank you.